All right, well, I want to give my final thoughts on the whole Andre Ward-Sergey Kovalev rematch that happened on Saturday. Now that, some time has passed, tempers have kind of went down a little bit, tapered off a little bit. It's one of my final thoughts because these two guys are fighters that you either love or hate. This is so similar to the Manny Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather situation. And as Michael Montero said, they're very polarizing figures in the sport of boxing, both of these guys. But the thing is this, people have said openly that they don't like Andre Ward. They've said openly that they don't like Sergey Kovalev. So in a situation where a round may be close and could go either way, obviously if you don't like Andre Ward, you're not going to give him a close round. And obviously if you don't like Sergey Kovalev, you're not going to give him a close round as well. So that's pretty understandable. But, people will say, well, I hate Andre Ward's style, and I don't want anyone to tell me that I should like Andre Ward's style. And that's fine. But in the same token, if someone likes Andre Ward's style and they like Andre Ward as a fighter, then, they shouldn't be asked, well, how could you like someone like Andre Ward? He's dirty, he's this, he's that. So I think in the same token, you should not try to change people's minds and not try to say to people, oh, well, would you ever want to watch Andre Ward again? Because I wouldn't, because he's this, he's that, or whatever. So that's the thing, because I've made statements about Andre Ward, I've made statements about the first fight, and basically I've been vilified by other people who have opposing views. Instead of just saying, hey man, I understand where you're coming from, but I just disagree. It's not been like that in this situation, and it's the same situation with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. If you ever said something about Manny Pacquiao, well, he can't really do this that well, he didn't look that good today against this guy gave problems, you got jumped on. It's the same thing with Andre Ward. If you say, well, Andre Ward was a good fighter, if you say the fight could have went either way with the first match, then you got jumped on. So obviously, if you're going to be jumped on, it's not really hard, and it's pretty understandable that you're going to lash back out at people. I'm an Andre Ward fan. I like Andre Ward. I've been following him since he came out the Olympics, and I really started becoming a fan after that Edison Miranda fight, because I really liked how he was in there with a guy who was a big puncher, a real gritty guy. It was a fight that I wasn't 100% sure he was even going to win, but the way he handled that fight and won that fight, so early in his career, I just became a fan. So let's talk about the whole Stevie Weeks thing, because referees officiate pretty much like a baseball umpire officiates. He'll tell you they all have their own kind of sets of rules in a way, or I shouldn't say they have their own sets of rules, they have their own way of how they interpret the rules. Case in point with the umpire with the strike zone. Every umpire has a different strike zone. So you have to basically, as a hitter, if you know that umpire is going to be umping the game, you have to adjust how you may come up to the plate. You have to adjust what you're going to do when you get up to the plate, and you may have to adjust the way you play the game, because that particular umpire is going to officiate a certain way. Now, before this fight, Tony Weeks said belt line shots are good. He put his hand on Sergey Kovalev's belt line and said these shots are good. Andre Ward saw it, Sergey Kovalev saw it. And in my own opinion, and I don't care what anyone says, I'm just telling you what I saw when I was watching this fight. The majority of those punches, pretty much 99% of the punches Andre Ward threw to the body, the ones that were considered low, they were on the belt line, and they were legal according to Tony Weeks. That's what he said. And maybe one or two of them, and definitely the final one was low. There's no question about it. But in fairness to Tony Weeks, in real time, without the slow motion, it did look borderline to me in real time when I was watching the fight. I'm being 100% honest. But with that being said, Sergey Kovalev kept really exaggerating his reaction, and seemed to me and a lot of others like he was acting like he got hit in the groin anytime a punch was on the belt line or remotely close to the belt line. And it looked like he was trying to, elicit a response from Tony Weeks and have Tony Weeks take a point away from Andre Ward, because he didn't like the body shots. It was just pretty evident to me watching this fight that, it was the 4th round, and he was gassed in the 4th round. And you could say whatever you want, it was because he was getting hit low, but again, it was the 4th round of the fight. And I thought the shots were on the belt line. But get back to Tony Weeks and the whole situation of how he officiated this fight. If he sees a guy is going to constantly act like he got hit in the groin when he didn't get hit in the groin, constantly over-dramatize the punches landed every time he gets hit remotely in that area, whether it be for the most part, even if it's borderline, or even if he gets tapped on the belt line, he's going to bend over and double over and grab his nuts, or put his hands by his sides like he got hit in the nuts when it's pretty obvious and clear to everyone that he didn't. Then think about it. Anytime there's a borderline shot, he's not going to get that benefit of the doubt, because Tony Weeks is already saying to himself, this guy is trying to oversell me. He's doing the equivalent of a flop in basketball. So right then and there, he's going to lose the benefit of the doubt from the referee, because he's trying to pull an Academy Award winning performance in there every time he gets hit remotely close in the midsection on the belt line. So right then and there, he lost the right, in Tony Weeks' eyes, in my opinion, to even get the benefit of the doubt on a borderline shot. And people say, well, he got warned. He got one stern warning in that fight, and the rest, 20 Weeks just said, keep him up, keep him up, keep him up, keep him up. And that's something a ref will say if a shot is close. It's borderline. That doesn't mean you went low. That means it was close. You're getting there. So keep him up. Any lower, it's going to be low. That's not a stern warning. So people are like, oh, he told him all fight to keep him up. Okay, but a stern warning is when you say, okay, that was low. You go there again, I'm going to take a point. At no point in time did Tony Weeks ever say that during the fight. And no one's really commenting on that. So there was one stern warning, and the rest were just basically, okay, keep them up, keep them up. They're close, you're getting there. So that's the problem I think people have. People want to talk about, oh, there's rules. But again, it's just like the umpire in baseball. Everyone is going to have their own interpretation of the rules. Unless something is flagrant, which I didn't see anything that was flagrant, unless something was egregious, then the referee is going to have his own point of view on how he enforces the rules in there. Okay? I have to ask you guys a question. If Andre Ward was in there with the Bernard Hopkins, and the fight was playing out the same way, and I'm talking about a prime Bernard Hopkins, the Hopkins that fought Tito Trinidad, okay? And the fight was playing out the same way, do you think Hopkins would have reacted the same way Kovalev did? I mean, he would have probably tried to act a little bit, but once he saw that his acting wasn't working, he would have done the same thing to Andre Ward. He would have smacked Andre Ward back on the belt line. He's been known to do that. Let me ask you this also. Prime Felix Trinidad. Another example, another fighter who knows how to fight pretty well up close, decent up close fighter like Bernard Hopkins. He's been known to go north of the belt line as well, but a lot of times he would hit you on the belt line, and not always were those shots called because they were borderline shots. Let me ask you this: so Andre Ward's in there with a prime Tito Trinidad. Is he going to react the same way Sergey Kovalev reacted? Andre Ward in there against a prime Julio Cesar Chavez. If with all things considered, if they were both the same weight, if they both fought in the same weight class. Because we know Luis Chavez, another great inside fighter, who would smack you right on the belt line. He would smack you right on the belt line. And very rarely did he ever get a point taken away. Would he have reacted the same way as Sergey Kovalev? The answer to that question is no. You know why? Because all of those fighters knew how to fight on the inside. They were capable fighters on the inside. Sergey Kovalev has absolutely no inside game. And that was the problem in this fight, first and foremost. Say what you want about Andre Ward. He can fight on the inside. He's a good inside fighter. And even at a distance, people want to say Sergey Kovalev's a better outside fighter than Andre Ward. Andre Ward can hang with him on the outside. The fight is competitive when it's on the outside. Once the fight moves to the inside, it's a no contest. The fight is just overwhelmingly non-competitive, and Andre Ward has an overwhelming advantage once the fight moves to the inside. Because Sergey Kovalev cannot fight on the inside, and he really does not have a hook. He doesn't know how to shorten up shots up close, and he doesn't really have variations of punches. He's a straight puncher. He's not a guy who's going to shorten up a punch. He's not a guy who's going to shorten up a right hand or have a good tight left hook. He's not a guy that can loop a right hand over the top. I know Steve Kim, I was listening to his podcast, and he mentioned that. And I thought he hit the nail right on the head. He was throwing the right hand one particular way. He was throwing the jab one particular way. And I agree with Steve Kim on that. He doesn't have a lot of variations of punches. He typically throws the jab and the right hand. You know? He's not a body puncher. So you could sit there and say what you want, but Sergey Kovalev is one-dimensional to some degree. But that one dimension is a very strong dimension. But, once you take that dimension away from him, then there's no plan B, C, D, or E. Whereas Andre Ward, when you look at it on the surface, if you don't like how he fights, that's fine. If he's not appealing to you, that's fine. But the fact still remains, he is a much more versatile fighter than Sergey Kovalev. And that's where the difference was in this fight. Because he could hang with Sergey Kovalev on the outside, but Sergey Kovalev can't even deal with him one bit on the inside. And that was the problem in this fight. So you can sit there and say at the end of this fight, if someone says, yeah, he was sitting on the bottom rope, it could have been ruled a knockdown, absolutely, that's fine. And someone said, that was a low blow, he should have been given 5 minutes to recover, that's fine too. But when you're looking at this fight in real time, okay, and you're seeing him stagger back after a big right hand, you're seeing him get hit on the belt line, and then he's bending over below the waist, right? And then he falls back into the corner, and he's bending over below the waist. And at one point in this fight, he turned his back to Andre Ward. Those are all signs of resignation because he wasn't punching back, okay? So there is still that option where Tony Weeks can stop this fight because in real time, that last punch, it was clearly low on the instant replay. There's no disputing that. It was a clear low blow. But in real time, in the heat of the moment, when the action is transpiring, Tony Weeks is looking, at Sergey Kovalev's head first and foremost because he took a vicious headshot. His eyes looked glassy. He was staggering back, so he's got his eyes fixated on that. And then Andre Ward lands a shot right on the belt line, which Stevie Weeks already said was legal. Then Sergey Kovalev bends over. Okay, Andre Ward hit him here, right here on the solar plexus, and right here on the solar plexus. So those two shots were good. The other one on the belt line was legal. And then as he staggers back in the ropes, he digs a shot, and it's below the belt line. Okay? So that shot was not legal. But Tony Weeks is looking at Sergey Kovalev. He's looking at the upper body, the head and shoulders, because he knows he's hurt. Okay? And then he's hunched over, so his lower body is pretty much covered. You can't see everything. In real time, I could not tell if that punch was low or not. It was definitely, I said to myself, that's close, it's borderline. The only way I could tell that it was definitively a low blow was on the instant replay. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Tony Weeks could stop this fight. It was definitely a plausible course of action that he could have taken. And that's not to say the other two courses of action cannot be taken. But again, if you're the Andre Ward fan, then you're going to look at it that, yeah, he could stop it if he wants to. If you hate Andre Ward, then you're going to look at it the other way. So there's a lot of gray area here. This isn't just black and white. So I'm an Andre Ward fan. I wanted him to win the fight. But I can understand and appreciate that this was not a black and white situation. There was a gray area, and this could have went in a numerous amount of different ways. But there's one thing I will tell you. If there's a knockdown, 10-8 round for Andre Ward, they continue right away, okay? They continue right away, then Andre Ward jumps back on him and he stops it. Okay. If he decides to call it low, gives him up to 5 minutes to recover, you can say what you want, but this guy was dead from since the fourth round. He was gassing. So, you know, you give him another 5 minutes, he's probably not going to take the full 5 minutes. Is he going to recover from that? That's highly questionable in my opinion. In my opinion, regardless of what would have happened here, what decision would have been made, okay, Sergey Kovalev does not finish that fight. He does not finish. He does not make it to the final bell in that fight, in my opinion. So that's just how I see it. I thought 99% of those shots were on the belt line, and if you watch the beginning of the fight, go back and watch the fight again. As I said, not to be redundant, Tony Weeks said these shots are good, and that's where Andre Ward was hitting them. And a lot of referees, you'll see them say these shots on the belt line are good. Not all of them, but quite a few of them will. So going back, to what I said, this was a situation where, everyone knows how Andre Ward fights. Sergey Kovalev knows how Andre Ward fights. He knows he's going to get inside. He's going to make it a physical fight. He's going to maul him and try to wrestle him on the inside. He knew this. This is like you're in school and you're taking a geography test tomorrow. You're not going to open up your math book and study for math. You're going to study for geography. So you're fighting Andre Ward. You got to prepare for a rough and tumble, rugged fight. So you had 2 fights. You had 2 training camps to learn how this guy fights. And you did not capitalize on all of the data, all of the footage, all of the tape that was out there on Andre Ward. Whereas you could clearly see that he definitely capitalized and took advantage of all that data that he got on you. So as Don Turner said, Andre, when asked about Sergey Kovalev, called him just a puncher. He's not really a thinker. I'm not trying to insult the guy, but he had the data to use, and he wasn't able to formulate a game plan. He wasn't able to make use of that data that he had over the course of 2 training camps and over the course of 2 fights, learning about how Andre Ward fights. So when you fight Andre Ward, you know what you're signing up for, okay? And you may not like his style, but no one can tell me that his style is not effective. No one can tell me his style is not effective. And he may push the envelope. But, he fought in the Super 6. He's fought, many fights. He's a seasoned pro. And you mean to tell me that every time he fights that the referee is biased towards him? No, he knows just how far to push it. How far to push that envelope and not get points taken away. He's not the first fighter to master this, okay? And to sit there and say that there's no skill to his game, and you could say that if you want, but really go back and watch that fight and look at the feints. Look at the head and shoulder feints that he threw in that fight. Look how he dipped, and he was trying to sell a jab upstairs, but he would go to the body. He would get Sergey Kovalev to react and raise his hands, because he give him that little head and shoulder feint, and you have him guessing, where's this jab coming from? Where's it gonna land on me? Where's it gonna be thrown at? He didn't know, and he kept opening up them body shots, and then look how he just timed the right hand, and he would slip it and slide away from it, because he knows that Sergey Kovalev, he found out what Sergey Kovalev's sweet spots were in that ring. And he never let him get comfortable and set in his sweet spots. That's why he kept changing the look, changing the range. If he wasn't punching, then he wasn't going to stay in one spot for very long. He either sat, when he sat himself and he was stationary, he was throwing punches. And when he wasn't throwing punches, he was moving and changing range constantly on Sergey Kovalev. That takes smarts. That is ring intelligence right there. That's situational ring intelligence. I'm sorry. Sergey Kovalev does not have that. So you have every right to not like Andre Ward. Okay? You have every right to not appreciate his style. Okay?
Karen July 50, Karen 50.
But, you know, don't criticize me for liking Andre Ward. Don't criticize me for appreciating Andre Ward's style. Because if you do, I'm just going to come back at you and smash you down with knowledge, man. You know, unfortunately, the way this whole situation transpired, you had to choose a side. There was virtually no middle ground here. And if I'm forced to take a side, then I'm going to be on the Andre Ward side, because I've been riding with this guy for a long time. I like this guy. This guy is one of the most mentally strong human beings I've ever seen. You know, he has one of the strongest wills I've ever seen, and I can appreciate that. Okay, and this guy just has such a strong will. He refuses to lose in there, and I appreciate that about him, man. I really do. And if he loses, he loses, you know. But, you know, if there's a situation where the fight's close or it can go either way and he gets the decision, I'm not going to jump on the guy. This, you know, if he's in a fight and it's like Paul Williams versus Erislandy Lara, and he ends up being the Paul Williams that, you know, for whatever reason, if he ends up losing like Paul Williams did to Erislandy Lara, and he ends up getting the decision like Paul Williams, and of course I'm going to say he lost the fight. But if it's a fight that's close, and there's rounds in there that can go either way, and I give him the decision, then, you know, you can jump on me all you want, but, you know, I'm going to stand by what I stand by. All right? Can he lose a close fight 7-5? Absolutely, absolutely. But you know what? If it's in a situation like it was the first fight, okay, and could have gone either way, and he ends up getting the nod by a point, I'm not going to argue that. Just like I thought Danny Jacobs beat Gennady Golovkin. I had him winning the fight by a point. But you know what? It was very conceivable that he lost the fight too. It wasn't a situation where, you know, it was impossible to give Gennady Golovkin the decision in that fight. And I picked Danny Jacobs. I bet on Danny Jacobs, and I wanted Danny Jacobs to win. But I didn't cry after that fight. I didn't get upset after that fight. I thought he won the fight. But a lot of people disagree with me. But it was even different, though. This was more of a even split. This was like 60-40, 55-45. You know, it was different than the Andre Ward-Sergey Kovalev fight. More people actually thought Danny Jacobs won than thought Andre Ward won. So, you know, this was even different. But regardless of that, I thought Danny Jacobs won the fight. But I didn't cry. I didn't complain. I lost a little bit of money on the fight, and that's all well and good. It wasn't impossible to give Gennady Golovkin the decision in that fight. It wasn't. Just like it wasn't impossible to give Andre Ward the decision in the first fight. And just like it wasn't impossible for Tony Weeks to put his hand on a belt line that was far up on the guy's waist, that was covering the navel. It was not out of the realm of possibility for him to say, it wasn't ridiculous for him to say that these punches are legal. And they were. So he already set the precedent right there. Okay? So it is what it is. I still feel the way I feel. And you guys can still criticize me if you want, but it doesn't matter. Because I'm going to believe what I believe, and I'm going to stand by my convictions. All right, till next time, Habeeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.